Hello everyone and welcome to Casa Curious channel. In this video, I will be discussing coronary artery disease. My primary source of information is Harrison's Book of Internal Medicine. The topics that I am going to cover are as follows: clinical impact of coronary artery disease, the risk factors involved, risk stratification, pathogenesis of the disease, ischemic heart disease, and its management. Clinical impact of coronary artery disease. It causes more deaths and disability and incurs greater economic costs than any other illnesses in the developed world. Worldwide, 1 million people die each year from this disease. Here are the top 10 causes of death in Philippines, and as you can see, diseases of the heart is the number one killer. Hypertension and dyslipidemia. Mortality and morbidity are getting worse over time. Risk of modest increase in total cholesterol and blood pressure is equivalent to severe increase in one risk factor. This multiple risk factor intervention trial study shows you that people with CVD, hypertension is bad, cholesterol is bad, but when you put them together, lot worse. Patients with diabetes without previous MI have the same risk of MI as patients without diabetes with previous MI. Diabetics are equivalent to those who had a heart attack. This is why they are so aggressive in terms of managing blood pressure, especially when diabetes is coupled with cardiovascular diseases. Risk factors: hypercholesterolemia, smoking, and diastolic hypertension all have a more significant increase in the mortality as compared to non-diabetics. Risk factors in developing coronary artery disease are classified into modifiable and non-modifiable. Most important modifiable risk factors are highlighted in the red color. Smoking is the most common among them. Risk factors are the part of atherosclerotic disease process. Cardiovascular risk factors are like lotto tickets, and the grand prize is the heart attack. The more tickets you have, the more chances of winning. Stay away from the risk factors. Stop smoking, control cholesterol, blood sugar, blood pressure, and weight, and you won't have a heart attack. Risk stratification. Assessment of risk can be accomplished by clinical risk scoring systems such as that developed from the thrombolysis in myocardial infarction trials, TIMI, which includes 7 independent risk factors such as age more than 65 years, 3 or more traditional risk factors for coronary heart disease, known history of coronary artery disease or coronary stenosis of at least 50%, daily aspirin use in the prior week, or more than one anginal episode in the past 24 hours, ST segment deviations of at least 0.5 mm, and an elevated cardiac specific biomarker above the upper limit of normal. High risk indicators such as history, character of pain, clinical findings, recordings of ECG and cardiac biomarkers, pathogenesis of coronary artery disease. Central to understanding the pathogenesis of myocardial ischemia is the concept of myocardial supply and demand. In normal conditions, for any given level of a demand for oxygen, the myocardium will control the supply of oxygen-rich blood to prevent underperfusion of myocytes and the subsequent development of ischemia and infarction. The major determinants of myocardial oxygen demand are the heart rate, myocardial contractility, and myocardial wall tension, or the stress, to vary its resistance. This needs to meet by the ability of the coronary vascular bed by reducing the lumen of the coronary arteries. Atherosclerosis limits appropriate increase in perfusion when the demand for flow is augmented, as occurs during exertion and excitement. When the luminal reduction is severe, myocardial perfusion in the basal state is reduced. This can present with angina that is indistinguishable from that caused by coronary atherosclerosis, largely owing to the subendocardial ischemia. 2 or more causes of ischemia coexist in a patient, such as an increase in oxygen demand due to left ventricular hypertrophy, secondary to hypertension, and a reduction in oxygen supply, secondary to coronary atherosclerosis and anemia, ultimately leading to death due to congestive heart failure. Functions of endothelium are opposite when injured. Injury or activation of endothelial cells leads to the altered endothelial function that may promote disease. Characterized by numerous features like imbalance in endothelium derived relaxing and contracting factors, anti and procoagulative factors, growth inhibiting and promoting factors. In endothelial dysfunction, cardiac risk factors distort endothelial function. Circadian rhythm of onset. Symptoms of myocardial infarction increase in the first 3 hours of awakening. Aside from the systolic or systemic blood pressure being highest in the morning, the heart rate, coronary blood flow, blood viscosity, plasma cortisol, plasma epinephrines also highest in the morning, contributing to the blood clot formation. All these will explain why most stroke and the heart attack occurs in the morning. High cholesterol, high cortisol and epinephrine in the morning may activate the sympathetic nervous system, leading to increase in the blood pressure. Atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis comes from the Latin word atheros meaning artery and scleros meaning heart, and is the process. So, atherosclerosis is a process of hardening of the arteries. Atherogenesis involves the elements of inflammation, occurs over a period of many years discontinuously. Clinical expressions of atherosclerosis are in acute phase myocardial infarction, stroke, sudden cardiac death, and in chronic stable angina, predictable intermittent claudication. Epicardial coronary arteries are the major site of atherosclerotic disease. The major risk factor for atherosclerosis: high level of plasma, low density lipoproteins LDL, low plasma high density lipoprotein HDL, cigarette smoking, hypertension, and diabetes mellitus varies in the relative impact and disturbing the normal functions of the vasculoendothelium. Atherosclerosis develops at irregular rates in different segments of the epicardium or the epicardial coronary tree and leads eventually to segmental reductions in cross-sectional areas, leading to the plaque formation. The process of atherosclerosis. Oxidized LDL goes into the endothelium. Hypertension, stress, free radicals from the smoke damage the endothelium and facilitate entry of oxidized LDLs. Macrophage considers oxidized LDLs as foreign, so macrophage engulfs oxidized. Products of lipoprotein oxidation induce vascular wall cells to release pro-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin 1 and tumor necrotic factors. The fatty streaks initial lesion for the atherosclerosis. Endothelium tries to isolate the smooth muscle cell migration. Indestructible, irremovable oxidized LDL as part of the endothelium would grow over the foam cells in the hope that it can at least isolate the foreign body. Macrophages release metalloproteases, the enzymes of the macrophage, to try and dissolve the oxidized LDLs. Metalloproteases dissolves the fibrous caps, so collagen is exposed and the platelet plug formation occurs. Plaque rupture is more dangerous than stenosis. Rupture can cause thrombosis, thus sudden blockade in blood flow. Chronic stenosis induces the development of collaterals, so blood flow may be sufficient. But since blood can't flow as the arteries is clogged, which leads to the heart attack. Here we see the thinning out of the tunica media and tunica adventitia and the pathological thickening of the tunica intima. The pathological thickening can lead to the blockade of arteries, which can predispose someone to get a heart attack. Progression of coronary artery disease. In the progression of CAD, the plaque gets bigger and bigger and the lumen of the artery becomes smaller until the CAD becomes symptomatic. For severe CAD, obstructive, the expansion is not enough to compensate for the atherosclerosis, so the lumen narrows. Severity. Most acute MIs are associated with less severe stenosis, meaning more people or more patients experience MI even though the diameter of their stenosis is less than 50%. Intravascular ultrasound. We use ultrasound to look at the atherosclerotic plaque and to assess luminal diameter. Macrophages can be continuously stimulated by oxidized LDL to create foam cells, secreting metalloproteases that can thin out the fibrin cap and crack the cap, opening unstable plaques, which can eventually cause a heart attack. For stable plaques, when macrophages are not stimulated, then metalloproteases is not secreted and the fibrin cap is not thinned out, thus less chance of a heart attack. Instability and rupture. Factors contributing to rupture are thin fibrous cap, large lipid layer, high content of macrophage and the T lymphocytes, outward remodeling, spotting calcifications, few smooth muscle cells. Inflammation and atherosclerosis. Unstable plaques have increased leukocyte infiltrates, T cells, macrophage predominates rupture sites. Cytokines and metalloproteases influence both stability and degeneration of the fibrous cap. Lipid lowering may reduce plaque inflammation. Decreased macrophage number, increased interstitial collagen, decreased expression of E-selectin, reduced calcium deposit. Ischemic heart diseases. Conditions in which there is inadequate supply of blood and oxygen to a portion of the myocardium. Imbalance between myocardial oxygen supply and the demand may be reversible if less than 20 minutes. So, what are the effects of ischemia? Failure of normal muscle relaxation and contraction. Ischemia of large portions will lead to left ventricular failure. Electrical instability in ischemic portions, ventricular premature beats, ventricular tachycardia, fibrillations, and then sudden death. Angina pectoris. Clinical syndrome due to transient myocardial ischemia. High prevalence in males more than 50 years of age and female more than 60 years old. Anginal equivalents are dyspnea, nausea, fatigue, faintness. The murmurs heard in this condition are crescendo decrescendo in nature. So what are the principal presentations of unstable angina? There are three. Rest angina, angina occurring at rest and prolonged, usually more than 20 minutes. New onset angina of at least class 3 severity. Increasing angina. Previously diagnosed angina that has become distinctly more frequent, longer in duration, or lower in threshold. The different locations of anginal pectoris. Radiation to shoulder, both arms, especially the ulnar surface of the forearm and the hand. Radiation to the back, intercapsular region, root of neck, jaw, teeth, and epigastrium. Take note, pain and numbness is one of the ulnar side and not on the radial side. This slide shows the grading of angina pectoris according to the Canadian Cardiovascular Society. Management of patients with myocardial infarction. As time goes by, more myocardiocytes die because you have a blocked artery. In fact, if you don't intervene, after a heart attack, the thickened tunica intima is replaced with a scar tissue, explaining why people suffer from cardiac failures after a heart attack. This would also explain why hypertensive patients, after suffering from a heart attack, their blood pressure is lowered. This does not mean that the patient does not have a hypertension anymore. The decrease in blood pressure is due to the decrease in cardiac output. In fact, it would be better for a hypertensive patient to have an increase in blood pressure after suffering from a heart attack because it signifies a strong heart that can pump more. The golden hour is first 60 minutes. Time is important in both heart attack and brain attack. Treatment delayed is treatment denied. Now we'll discuss about acute coronary syndrome. These make up the spectrum of pathophysiology in the coronary arteriosclerotic plaque. Non-ST segment elevations, unstable angina, non-ST elevations, and ST element segment elevations completely blocked. NSTEMI, most commonly caused by an imbalance between oxygen supply and demand, resulting from a partial occluding thrombus. Ischemic and myocardial necrosis may occur subsequent to the reduction of the coronary blood flow. Prinzmetal's variant angina, related to the hypercontractility of vascular smooth muscles due to adrenergic vasoconstrictors, leukotrienes, or serotonin, causes focal spasm of pericardial coronary arteries leading to myocardial ischemia, thus infarction. Chest discomfort is severe with at least one of the following features. First, occurs at rest or minimal exertion for more than 10 minutes. 2. Recent onset within the last 2 weeks. 3. Crescendo pattern, more severe, prolonged, or frequent than previous episodes. STEMI. Coronary blood flow decreases abruptly after a thrombotic occlusion of a coronary artery previously affected by atherosclerosis. The amount of myocardial damage depends on the territory supplied by the affected vessels, total occlusion of vessel, duration of the occlusion, quality of blood supplied by collateral vessels to the affected tissue, demand of oxygen of the myocardium whose blood supply has been limited, endogenous factors, inadequacy of myocardial perfusion in the infarct zone when flow is restored in the occluded artery. Deep and visceral pain is the most common presenting complaint, accompanied by weakness, sweating, nausea, vomiting, anxiety, and sense of impending doom. This slide summarizes what we have just learned. For unstable angina, history is the basis of diagnosis. Diagnosis of acute coronary syndrome are as follows. Confirming the diagnosis may be through ECG, serum biomarkers, cardiac imaging, and or non-specific indices of tissue necrosis and inflammation. Cardiac biomarkers. Detectable once the capacity of the cardiac lymphatics to clear the interstitium of the infarct zone is exceeded and spillover into the venous circulation occurs. Peak protein concentration correlates weakly with the infarct size. Lipid management goals. Class 1A LDL-C should be less than 100 mg per deciliter. Diabetics lipid management. Fasting lipid profile at least annually. The goal is LDL-C type to be less than 100 mg per deciliter. Goal for those with cardiovascular disease is less than 70. If the goal is not met on maximum drug therapy, reduction of 30 to 40% from baseline is an alternative goal. Management of stable coronary artery disease. Morphine for pain reduces sympathetically mediated arteriolar and venous constrictions and decreases preload and arterial blood pressure. Important side effect is the hypotension in response with atropine oxygen for adequate oxygenation. When hypoxemia is present, oxygen 2 to 4 liters per minute should be administered. Within the first 6 to 12 hours, nitrates like sublingual nitroglycerin, buccal spray, endothelium independent vasodilators increases the myocardial blood flow by coronary vasodilators and reduce myocardial oxygen demand. If symptoms not relieved with nitroglycerin IV, use morphine since morphine is also a vasodilator. Secondary anti-ischemic therapy. Beta blockers diminishes the myocardial oxygen demand, reduces the risk of infarction and ventricular fibrillation. Calcium channel blockers. They decrease the heart rate. Calcium channel blockers like verapamil and diltiazepam for patients with persistent symptoms of ECG signs of ischemia after treatment with full dose nitrates and beta blockers. ACE inhibitors reduces ventricular remodeling after infarction with subsequent reduction in the risk of cardiac congestive heart failure. Percutaneous coronary interventions or angioplasty. Angioplasty or stenting without preceding fibrinolysis, effective when carried out on an emergency basis in the first hours. The earlier time you open up to the artery, the better for your patient. So what are the contraindications? Uncontrolled hypertension, congestive heart failure, recent cardiovascular disease, infection, fibrinolytic therapy. Initiated within 30 minutes of presentation, the goal is to restore full coronary artery patency. Contraindicated in patients with history of cardiovascular hemorrhage, most frequent and serious complication. Coronary artery stent. Though the stent, the arteries are open to provide adequate perfusion to the myocardium. Higher the lesion, meaning the more distal from the heart, the bigger the destruction of the myocardium. This procedure is usually reserved for patients with only 1 or 2 blocked arteries. Coronary artery bypass graft. Healthy artery is grafted from the blocked coronary artery, bypassing the blocked portion of the coronary artery, which then leads to create a new path for oxygen-rich blood to flow to the heart muscles. Usually, the initial method of revascularization for patients with three vessel disease. Lipid management goals. Class 1A LDL-C should be less than 100 mg per deciliter. Diabetics lipid management. Fasting lipid profile at least annually. The goal is LDL-C type to be less than 100 mg per deciliter. Goal for those with cardiovascular disease is less than 70. If the goal is not met on maximum drug therapy, reduction of 30 to 40% from baseline is an alternative goal. Management of stable coronary artery disease. Morphine for pain reduces sympathetically mediated arteriolar and venous constrictions and decreases preload and arterial blood pressure. Important side effect is the hypotension in response with atropine oxygen for adequate oxygenation. When hypoxemia is present, oxygen 2 to 4 liters per minute should be administered. Within the first 6 to 12 hours, nitrates like sublingual nitroglycerin, buccal spray, endothelium independent vasodilators increases the myocardial blood flow by coronary vasodilators and reduce myocardial oxygen demand. If symptoms not relieved with nitroglycerin IV, use morphine since morphine is also a vasodilator. Secondary anti-ischemic therapy. Beta blockers diminishes the myocardial oxygen demand, reduces the risk of infarction and ventricular fibrillation. Calcium channel blockers. They decrease the heart rate. Calcium channel blockers like verapamil and diltiazepam for patients with persistent symptoms of ECG signs of ischemia after treatment with full dose nitrates and beta blockers. ACE inhibitors reduces ventricular remodeling after infarction with subsequent reduction in the risk of cardiac congestive heart failure. Percutaneous coronary interventions or angioplasty. Angioplasty or stenting without preceding fibrinolysis, effective when carried out on an emergency basis in the first hours. The earlier time you open up to the artery, the better for your patient. So, what are the contraindications? Uncontrolled hypertension, congestive heart failure, recent cardiovascular disease, infection, fibrinolytic therapy. Initiated within 30 minutes of presentation, the goal is to restore full coronary artery patency. Contraindicated in patients with history of cardiovascular hemorrhage, most frequent and serious complication. Coronary artery stent. Though the stent, the arteries are open to provide adequate perfusion to the myocardium. Higher the lesion, meaning the more distal from the heart, the bigger the destruction of the myocardium. This procedure is usually reserved for patients with only one or two blocked arteries. Coronary artery bypass graft. Healthy artery is grafted from the blocked coronary artery, bypassing the blocked portion of the coronary artery, which then leads to create a new path for oxygen-rich blood to flow to the heart muscles. Usually, the initial method of revascularization for patients with three vessel disease